First part, this is part number one. First thing you need to know is, and I put it on the slide, it says that grid spacing is 0.5 inches. So keep that in mind, that our grid spacing is 1/2 an inch. So that means that the distance from here to here is 1/2 an inch. The distance from here to here is 1. The overall length of this line right here is 3.5 inches. So let's go back to Onshape here. Okay, so we've got our practice parts started here, and down here it says Part Studio 1, these tabs that's across the bottom, and then it says Assembly 1 here. I'm going to click that little plus sign, and I am going to then say Create Part Studio, because we are creating a part. Now, once I do that, I get Part Studio number 2. So I'm going to put my cursor on that tab. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say rename. And I'm going to rename this to Part 1, because that is the part number that, or the part that we're going to be working on here. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at this and I'm going to count the blocks. Like I mentioned, this line's 3.5. This is 2.5 inches tall. So back to our parts. I'm going to click on where it says sketch right here. I'm going to go to the front plane. You could use the right plane if you want, but I like the front plane. It put the sketch plane on that front plane. Now, I'm going to right click and say view normal to sketch plane. And what that does is that allows me to look at the sketch plane just like it's a piece of paper on the tabletop. This tool right here is a rectangle tool, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to pull that out, and I'll get close to the numbers, but I don't have to get perfect to them. And I'll click. And the first thing it does is it's going to ask me for the value of this horizontal line, which is going to be 3.5. So I just type that into my keyboard. I hit enter, and it automatically goes to my other dimension, which is going to be 2.5. Okay. And now you can see that that line is, or that whole thing is completely enclosed. Now, just to give you some idea of how to use the software here, we've got these little planes over here. So we've got top, front, and right. I'm going to click the eye off, and that turns them off so that we get a nice clean interface here. Okay, now the next thing is, this is an L-shaped part, so I'm going to keep doing the rectangle tool. I'm going to pull this over and down like this, and then I'm going to put a couple dimensions on here, and the dimension tool is right here, and I'm going to dimension from that line to there, and give that a dimension of 1 because it's 2 blocks up, and then from here to here, this is also 2 blocks, so that is 1 inch, and that green check mark. Now, a couple different ways once you green check mark to get this to look at it as like it's an isometric. I can right click and select isometric down here, or I can go to this little icon just below the view cube, and I can hit isometric, or if you want, I suppose you can use the corners of the view cube. So I just, for ease of use, I like to click isometric. Okay, now I'm going to use the Extrude tool, and that is immediately to the right of the word sketch. Click on that. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to click on the stuff that I want to extrude. Let's see. I'm going to go and count the blocks on this one because I forgot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means that that is 2.5 inches extruded out. So here in our box, it says new faces sketch. I clicked on that. It's a blind, and the depth is where I'm going to select. I'm going to put in my 2.5 inches and green check mark. All right, good. Now we've got this little cutout here and this little cutout down here, so I'm going to do this cutout first. So sketch, I'm going to click that front plane there. I'm going to right click and say view normal, and I'll use my rectangle tool again, and you notice I'm locking onto the top of this. You'll see it highlight, and I'll pull this down and over. Now it's one block over and one block down, and then it's 1, 2, 3 blocks over this way. So it's a 1/2 inch this way, 1/2 inch down, and then 1.5 inches going to the right. So let's get our dimension tool going here. I'll go from there to there, and that is going to be 0.5. This is going to be, I think it's 1.5 if I remember right. And then the depth here is also going to be 0.5. Check mark. And then just for variety's sake, I'm going to click on that little cube looking thing and go isometric. Now, extrude. But this time I'm actually removing material. So right here where it says remove, I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to choose the faces that I want to remove, which is that. And instead of blind here, I could just put in a depth of 1 inch. That would work. But I'm going to say up to next. And then I hit select. Now I need to put in this little slot here. So it's 1 inch over. It goes back 1.5 and then over 1/2 inch. So those are the dimensions for that. Sketch plane right on top here. Right click, view normal to. And you can do, by the way, you can rotate these things if you like. However you'd like to orient that to draw it. Again, the rectangle tool, I lock on to the line. I pull it out. Start my dimension from here to here. I think that was 1 inch, and then this guy here is 1/2 inch, and the depth is 1.5. Isometric. Finish my sketch. Extrude. It's going to be remove. This is the face I want. Again, I could use blind. I could use through all here instead if I wanted. And then check mark. And there it is. There's our first part.